Nigeria is often described as one of the most resource-rich nations in the world. Beneath its soil lies vast reserves of crude oil, placing the country among the nations with the largest oil deposits on the planet. For decades, billions of dollars have flowed into Nigeria through oil exports. Yet, for many Nigerians, that wealth has never translated into widespread prosperity. Across the country, millions still struggle with poor infrastructure, unreliable electricity, unemployment, and rising living costs. This contradiction raises an important question. How can a country so rich in natural resources still face such deep economic challenges? To understand this paradox, we must go back to a time before oil dominated Nigeria's economy. Before the discovery of oil in commercial quantities, agriculture was the backbone of Nigeria's economy. In the years leading up to and shortly after independence in 1960, farming was the primary source of employment and income for the majority of Nigerians. Different regions developed strong agricultural industries that shaped their economies. In the northern region, vast groundnut farms produced enormous harvests. The famous groundnut pyramids of Kano became a symbol of Nigeria's agricultural success and export strength. In the western region, cocoa plantations flourished. Cocoa export generated substantial foreign exchange and funded major development projects. Meanwhile, the eastern region became known for palm oil and palm kernel production, commodities that had been central to the trade in the area since the colonial era. Together, these agricultural industries formed the foundation of Nigeria's early economic growth. But agriculture did more than generate income. It also funded developments. Revenue from regional agricultural exports helped finance roads, public buildings, schools, and healthcare facilities. Some of Nigeria's earliest universities, including major regional institutions, were built with funds generated from agricultural exports. Regional governments competed with one another in development projects, using agricultural profits to improve education, transportation, and public services. During this period, Nigeria was not only feeding itself, but also exporting large quantities of agricultural products to the global market. Food production was strong, rural economies were active, and local industries connected to farming, such as storage, transportation, and processing, created jobs across the country. But this economic structure began to change dramatically in the late 1950s. In 1956, crude oil was discovered in commercial quantities in Oloibiri, located in present-day Bayelsa State in the Niger Delta. At first, oil production was relatively modest. However, global demand for oil increased sharply during the 1960s and 1970s. Nigeria's oil output expanded rapidly, and the country soon became one of the world's major oil exporters. With this discovery came a new wave of wealth. Oil revenues began pouring into government accounts. For policymakers at the time, oil appeared to be a powerful engine of development. Large infrastructure projects were launched, new cities expanded, and government spending increased dramatically. But beneath this apparent prosperity, an economic transformation was taking place. As oil revenues grew, agriculture began to decline. Many farmers left their fields and moved to cities in search of government jobs or opportunities connected to the oil economy. The government itself shifted attention away from agriculture, relying increasingly on oil exports as the main source of national income. Within a few decades, oil had replaced agriculture as the dominant sector of Nigeria's economy. Today, crude oil accounts for the overwhelming majority of Nigeria's export earnings. This heavy dependence on a single resource introduced new problems. One of the most serious had been economic vulnerability. Because Nigeria relies heavily on oil exports, its economy rises and falls with global oil prices. When prices are high, government revenue increases. But when prices drop, the country often faces budget shortfalls, currency instability, and economic crisis. Another major issue has been institutional corruption and financial mismanagement. The enormous revenue generated by oil created opportunities for large-scale misuse of public funds. Over the years, numerous financial irregularities have been reported within various institutions connected to the oil sector. Audits and investigations have frequently revealed discrepancies involving billions of dollars in oil revenue that were either unaccounted for, mismanaged, or lost through opaque financial arrangements. Nigeria's national oil institutions have repeatedly faced scrutiny over missing funds, unremitted revenues, and unclear accounting practices. While reforms and transparency initiatives have been introduced at various points, concerns about financial accountability in the oil sector continue to surface. These issues have had long-term consequences for development. Despite decades of oil production, many parts of Nigeria still face serious infrastructure deficits. Electricity generation remains unreliable. Roads in many regions require significant improvement. Access to healthcare and quality education remains uneven. In the Niger Delta, where most of the country's oil is extracted, communities have faced additional challenges. Environmental damage from oil spills and gas flaring has affected farmlands, rivers, and fishing livelihoods. Many residents of the region argue that while their land produces enormous wealth for the nation, local communities have not received proportional development. Frustration in the region has sometimes led to unrest, protests, and militant activity targeting oil facilities. These conflicts have occasionally disrupted oil production and further complicated Nigeria's economic stability. Economists often describe situations like this using a term known as the resource curse. The resource curse refers to a paradox where countries rich in natural resources sometimes experience slower economic development, weaker institutions, and higher levels of corruption compared to countries with fewer natural resources. Nigeria is frequently cited in discussions about this phenomenon. But it is important to know that oil has also brought benefits. Revenue from oil exports have funded large government budgets and helped finance major infrastructure projects, including highways, airports, and public institutions. Oil wealth has also contributed to Nigeria becoming one of Africa's largest economies. Major cities such as Lagos, Abuja, and Port Harcourt have grown into significant commercial and financial centers. However, the contrast between Nigeria's resource wealth and the everyday challenges faced by many citizens continue to spark debate. In recent years, there have been renewed discussions about economic diversification. Many policymakers and economists believe that Nigeria must reduce its dependence on oil and rebuild sectors such as agriculture, manufacturing, and technology. Interestingly, agriculture, once the foundation of Nigeria's economy, is beginning to regain attention. Modern farming initiatives, agribusiness investments, and government programs aimed at boosting local food production are slowly reviving interest in the sector. Some analysts believe that combining agriculture, technology, and manufacturing could help Nigeria build a more balanced economy. The country's large population, youthful workforce, and entrepreneurial culture offer enormous potential for growth. But achieving that potential will require strong institutions, transparent management of resources, and long-term economic planning. Looking back at Nigeria's history, two very different economic eras stand out. One was the agricultural era, when farms powered the economy and regional competition drove development projects across the country. The other is the oil era, which brought vast wealth but also new challenges including corruption, economic dependence, and uneven development. Both eras have shaped the nation we see today, and as Nigeria continues to search for a suitable path forward, one question remains at the center of the conversation. A question that touches on the past, the present, and the future of Africa's most populous nation. Nigeria's oil, has it truly been a blessing or a curse?